3, 2, 1.
Alright, hey everybody. Welcome to Obscurathon. My name's Kefka. I've ran a few games for this marathon, all of them being obscure N64 goodness. This game is no different. This is a game called Starshot Space Circus Fever. I'm joined on commentary by Osu. Osu, say hello.
Hey, my name is Obscurathon. I'll be co-commentating here today. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Let's just get right into it. This is honestly kind of a difficult run as far as platforming and stuff goes. There's some pretty fancy tricks and movement. Hopefully it goes well. We'll see how it goes. Let's just dive right in 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah, so I guess the first thing we should probably talk about is the mega fuels we have to collect. That's going to be like an ongoing thing over the whole run. Well, first we have to start out here in the menu, but like as soon as he starts, as soon as he lands, he's gonna go for these, start collecting these red triangles. There was one right there, like these red kind of pyramid shaped stuff. Basically, we need 100 of those to finish the game. So we're gonna be collecting those throughout the whole run. And that's like a big part of the speedrun, kind of routing the mega fuels and kind of, yeah, just figuring out which are the best. And I think each runner up to this point has had like a different mega fuel route, and yeah, you kind of have to figure out your own route for those. But yeah, like you said, it's kind of a difficult game. The controls are kind of, I guess I should just say janky, right?
Janky's a good word for it. They're not bad. There's certainly worse controls out there, but as a whole, they're certainly janky. Oh goodness, I fell.
Yeah, they just feel incredibly sensitive, I would say. It's very easy to kind of go slightly further than you would want to go, or and just controlling him in the air is a bit difficult, so landing can be tricky, and yeah. But what he's actually doing now is something we call a slope jump, which is actually a very sort of weird mechanic in the game, which I still haven't really figured out if that's intended or not. But basically, you kind of have to charge a slope jump, meaning, so sometimes you can jump on slopes and sometimes you can't. If you slide at any point, that means you've charged a slope jump, and then you can jump on a very steep slope, and we're going to use that a lot in the run. So basically what it means is you cannot jump on a slope 2 times in a row. You always have to charge your slope jump before doing another one, basically. And yeah, you saw him just do one right there. He kind of jumped on that slope to reach the other platform, and yeah, we're going to be doing that a bunch in the run. Now, this first level, I would say this is one of the best levels in the game. It has a lot of platforming. I personally really like this level. And yeah, maybe I should mention, I ran this game around 1 year ago. This was like my speedrunning project for about 2 months last. So yeah, the Christmas 2022? No, 2021. And yeah, it was a fun speed game. I definitely enjoyed it. What do you think about it so far, Kefka?
Honestly, I really like it. There's certainly a huge learning curve with this game, just because of the controls, as you said. They're extremely sensitive and finicky. You have way more control over Starshot than what it would seem like you should, honestly. It's in terms of air movement. And it's certainly a big learning curve in terms of movement if you're used to playing games like Mario 64 and stuff like that.
Yeah, it really feels like the movement just has a lot of potential, which is kind of like my PB is a 44 and Kefka's PB is a 43. And then recently another runner got a 39-minute run, which really kind of cleaned up a lot of the movement, and and I think the movement could probably go a lot further than that. So I think this game could be taken to a much higher level in movement-wise. It just hasn't been explored enough. I think it just doesn't have a big enough community yet.
One thing that I've always noted with this game is the jumping itself is very like. If you notice, the way jumping works is I'll do like 3 jumps in a row, and it'll allow me to jump higher. You actually don't have to continually press the A button to do that. You can just hold down the jump button. So like a lot of routing stuff later on at the higher levels of play for this game will be sort of knowing when to start jumps and stuff, so that you can essentially, how to explain this? Essentially like knowing when to start your jump cycles, so that you're not just standing against the edge of a platform jumping, waiting to get to the next area, but you're already in the process of building up your jumps.
Yeah. Also, oh, sorry, yeah.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. I was done.
No, I think also, like, that also brings a level of, like, optimization and, like, aggression. You can... So yeah, like if you do 1 jump, your jump isn't gonna reach as high or as long. If you do 2 jumps, it's gonna go slightly further, and 3 jumps even longer. So knowing like when to go for 1 jump, when to go for 2 jumps, and when to go for 3 jumps, that's important knowledge. And you can also kind of go more aggressive by doing a 1 jump instead of a 2 jump to save time, but it can be very risky. So that also kind of brings a level of like risk reward, which I always find kind of good in speed games.
Would you like to try to explain what I'm doing right now with skipping
Killer
Expo?
Yeah. So exactly, yeah. So basically, we're skipping a whole level now, and honestly, I don't know how this works. I don't know what's going on in the game internally, but basically, so if during one certain cutscene, how does it go? You turn off the console or exit the game, and then re-enter your save file, and that makes it so a certain like robot there on the screen or in the menu has appeared after you finish that first level. Now normally that robot isn't supposed to be there during, like, after the first level. Normally you would have to kind of play the second level to spawn in the robot, and then you can continue through the game. But basically by doing this cutscene thing, exiting the game and re-entering it, and then entering the planet and then exiting the planet, you've spawned in the robot early and you've skipped the full level of the game.
It only seems to work for that level as well. It's quite bizarre. I'm sure that there's likely more potential for that mechanic to be used in other ways, but it's somewhat hard to tell, really.
This is the only level, though, that kind of spawns in a robot. So none of the other levels have that function of spawning something in the menu. So, but maybe, who knows? Like this is an obscure game, so it really hasn't been like developed enough as a speed game yet.
What I'm doing here is I died on purpose so that my companion here would sort of spawn in the correct place, and I could manipulate him into a specific position. It allows us to skip most of this level. This is easily one of the shorter levels in the game due to the amount of content within the level that we skip in the run. As such, we don't really get a lot of mega fuel in this stage either, but there's some pretty crazy jump stuff in this level.
Yeah, so here's a strange one, which there's some wonky collision going on, so you can basically just gain insane amount of height if you just jump in the right spot. Now this only works if you have done the skips previously in the level. Basically you need to have skipped certain sections of the level in order for this skip to work.
I actually didn't know that part. I thought that piece of collision was always there. That's news to me. Interesting.
Or that's, I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. That's at least what the video said where I found this. This is like this was found in the PC version.
Oh,
And yeah, I discovered that it's actually possible on N64, and I think, yeah, you need to do certain... You need to, like, sequence break the level in order to do this. Now, here is probably the most difficult jump in the game.
There's definitely a chance I'll mess it up a time or two as well. It's very, very hard. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, this is called Museum Skip.
Just it up once. Very common,
Yeah, so
very common thing to mess up as well. Very difficult. I would definitely go as far as to say it's probably the most difficult trick in the game as well.
Yeah, I just definitely, yeah. Basically, there's this house here on the right. You're supposed to go through it. You're supposed to go inside it and finish a bunch of puzzles. But by going along this platform, we can basically jump and kind of grind along the wall of the house and then land on the pipe underneath the path there. But it's really tricky because the sort of the grinding against the wall is very inconsistent, and you have to hit it at a very precise angle to kind of get the forward momentum push that you need to reach the pipe, essentially.
Hopefully we'll
but yeah, it's so difficult, and it killed a lot of my runs. I remember that.
Same. I'm definitely playing it a little bit safe and lining it up real good here.
Yeah, and even after landing on the pipe, it's not over. You have to be very careful, and oh, that looks good. Yep, okay. So here you have to be very careful because you can easily slip off this pipe. And then we need to jump up, and once we're up, we've reached the end of the level. Great.
So then
Nicely done.
Then we can hit the checkpoint and sort of respawn this area, and it'll actually kind of trigger the end of the stage, so to speak, and we can just end the level immediately.
Yeah, one thing to talk about, basically, so he started off with the first level, which is you always have to do, and then we skipped the second level. And then there are 3 levels in a row where you can choose which order you go. Now, Kefka, you were going for this one because of this trick first, right?
Yeah, I wanted to get it out of the way in the marathon earlier.
That,
sure.
that makes a lot of sense. But basically, yeah, you can sort of choose which route you want to go, which levels you want to do in which order in this game, which is kind of nice. So, where are you going next?
I'm going to go to Techno Mummy next.
Techno Mummy next, yeah. Oh, that's another tricky level, I think. There's a lot of platforming, a lot of narrow ledges to land on.
And there's also some RNG to deal with in this level as well, with some enemy movement patterns and such. I wanted to get it out of the way a little bit early as well, comparatively speaking. One thing that's always bugged me in this level is the beginning here. You talk to this guard, and he'll open this door by bumping into it. I've never really found a good way to manipulate him into this door. Honestly, that would be great if that would happen during a run. But
yeah, that was great.
But it's kind of tricky to manipulate him into the correct spot, honestly.
Oh yeah, he can definitely troll you. He can just go back and forth and never really hit the door. And yeah, you can lose tens of seconds here easily. So that was very good. But basically, yeah, we have to kind of hit these red enemies. They'll lower platforms or move platform for us. So we have to shoot those and yeah, just go along these platforms here. Yeah.
Okay. So once we make it to this part of the stage, everything starts to get a little more difficult, in my opinion. Another thing worth mentioning is you'll notice I'm shooting. Occasionally, I'll shoot a bullet, which is our primary method of attack. If you continue to hold the B button, you can actually control where your bullet goes, and we'll be seeing that throughout the run as well, especially during the final boss.
Yeah, and that's also kind of like a good thing for a speed game. I think if you hold the B, you can't move. You can't move Starshot because you're moving the bullet. So the less you do of that, the better. But still, you definitely need to do it a lot.
So,
oh yeah, and the Roombas there, they will mess you up. And that's maybe one thing to talk about. Like what do you call it? The enemies can. Normally, you would get like these iframes after an enemy hurts you, but not in this game.
Yeah, this game has 0 iframes, which is extremely frustrating, obviously.
Yeah, and you can kind of just become sort of stun locked if an enemy just kind of get trapped inside enemies, just hurting you over and over again, and that's just, yeah, typical jankiness for this game.
So here, I'm actually doing something a little bit new that hasn't been done very long in the run, where I didn't get a further checkpoint in the level, which when you die, it just reverts you back to the previous checkpoint. And I've done that intentionally because if you stay on this platform here, he'll bump into this other enemy, and it'll allow us to get a lot closer to where we need to get without us having to do a small series of shooting other platforms or other red enemies and such.
Oh, I did not know this. This is interesting.
Alright.
But yeah, here there's a new skip coming up. One that I never did in my runs. And it's a pretty big one. Saves over a minute. Normally you would have to sort of go around this area and turn off a bunch of electric things. You have to shoot a bunch of things, and yeah, it takes around a minute and a half. But he's just gonna go down here, and this was the enemy manipulation he's gonna do. He's gonna shoot this guy, and this guy is gonna push him through this barrier.
So I tried to do it the new way, and honestly, I really shouldn't have, because I've never tried to do it the new way at all. I just decided to YOLO a little bit and see what would happen. Didn't really pan out, but the way it works essentially is you want this guy to push you through the barrier like so. The barrier just kills you automatically. And as Osu said, normally you have to go around this whole building and disable a bunch of sort of switches, I guess you could call them, in order to deactivate the barrier, but we can bypass it entirely.
Yeah, and by getting in there, you get these yellow things. Now, these yellow things are basically fuel for flying, like you're doing right now.
Yeah,
so
think of them like feathers in Banjo-Kazooie. I missed all 3 of those fuels.
Yeah. So this is tricky. Also, flying controls also feel very, I don't know, I wouldn't say bad, but just very precise. It's very difficult to kind of master or do precisely. But I do think they're kind of good, though, or, decent at least.
Well, I flew backwards to try and get some fuels, and we only got 1, so that's not good, but it's okay. Well,
Wait, do you have backup mega fuels?
Somewhat.
All right. But yeah, we're gonna fly up here, and there's this whole upper section of the level where you're supposed to. I'm not even perfectly sure what you're supposed to do because I never played this game casually. Honestly, I just learned it as a speed game, so I've never done this part. But I think you're supposed to you need to get this thing that makes everything, or it makes you faster, or makes basically time go slower, type of thing.
What?
But he's just gonna jump through this door. We're gonna see it one more time, I guess.
Yeah, that's a very uncommon thing to mess up, honestly. I'm quite shocked I did mess it up, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised how consistent that is for you. This was one of the more difficult tricks for me when I was running this game. Getting through that door. You're kind of clipping through this tiny little hole between the door and the wall.
Yeah, it hasn't really been an issue for me in runs at all. and of course it would be an issue during the marathon, naturally.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah. So I noticed also you don't fly through the door, right? You just jump.
I just jump.
Yeah. So I would always kind of fly, but yeah.
In fact, I didn't know that you did fly. That makes me wonder if it's easier flying.
Well, your version does seem to be more consistent, so probably not.
Well, there's a very rare thing that can happen here where Starshot will get stuck on some geometry. I'm not actually moving the character right now, and the game will just soft lock if that happens. Luckily, it didn't happen here, but it's killed a couple runs of mine.
Yeah, definitely happened to me as well.
But we're
Oh yeah, just
go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say we're at the end of the level now, and you want to try to explain the plot of this game a little bit, actually, because it's a pretty strange plot. Honestly, it's one of the weirder stories I've ever seen in a video game.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know much about like the lore or the story. I never really played the game casually, but basically there's like two circuses. There's like this big evil corporate circus, which is the bad guy, and then there's like the small circus that you work for, I think. And you're trying to find like attractions to put in your circus. And for example, here we're getting this machine, which is like, what is this machine again?
They call it a malfunction machine. Like it never does what it's supposed to do. It only ever malfunctions, which that's a fun gimmick all in of itself, I suppose.
Yeah, and so that's like an attraction for the circus. So, and yeah, in the level before, we were picking up this ghost dog, a dog who is a ghost. So basically, that's what we're doing, kind of. And yeah, that's kind of it for the plot, right? Is there much else?
Yeah, the writing in this game is oddly mature for what it is. Like, there's no cursing or anything, but there's a lot of really kind of... It takes a real comedy, almost Rick and Morty-esque approach to a lot of deeper sci-fi concepts. If you're just looking for an interesting game to play through casually for a story that has some decent writing, I honestly recommend it.
Yeah, I should probably play it casually once.
So now we're going to probably it's weird because this level is one of the easier levels I would say as a whole, but it tends to kind of ruin a lot of speedruns for some reason.
Yeah, it is the longest level, right? So it has the most potential for just messing up, basically. But yeah, we're gonna start off in this platform section where we have to kind of use these. We shoot these trees and they bend, and then they can sort of shoot us further onto the next platform. And we can also shoot these cars to get a few mega fuels. They'll drop off the cars, like there. There are a few cool skips here, which we'll see later.
One in particular that looks very fancy. We'll have to die on purpose and sort of time our jump to where we bounce off of one of these cars in midair. It's not near as difficult as it looks, but it's honestly not easy either. It's probably the hardest skip in this stage, I would argue.
Yeah, but it has a pretty solid setup. Basically, by dying, you've kind of reset the cycle of the car, and then you can just hold A to keep jumping, and that means you'll always be jumping at the right time. But basically, yeah, what you're supposed to do is there are these sort of tourist things or like creatures there taking pictures, and you're supposed to kind of shoot them and herd them off the platforms, but we can skip all of that. So here it's gonna start jumping. I'm gonna jump, I think 9 times, right? And on the 9th jump, we're gonna jump at a certain angle to hit this car, and then get another jump off the car to get across this gap. Looks very nice.
I got it first try as well, which is pretty good. It's one of those things that It's definitely not as difficult as it looks, but it's not easy by any means. It definitely takes a little bit of getting used to.
Yeah, have you had the soft lock on this one?
I have not. Which soft lock are you referring to?
So sometimes the car will kind of bounce you towards like the floor of the level, and you'll get stuck at the bottom of the level without dying.
No, yeah, I have seen that actually. I have seen that a few times, but not during a run. I've only had it happen during practice a couple times.
Yeah, and I think there's no way out of it. You have to just exit the game and re-enter the level basically through the menu. And
Oh, what? So I was lining up a jump there to go to sort of a side area to collect some fuels, and the geometry in this game is a little bit janky, as we've been noting, and I basically just slid off the edge for no real discernible reason.
yeah, it's really like this level really isn't that hard. But I think I've never had a really clean version of it though, because it's just very long. There is a lot of platforming, and even though it's not super hard, it's still just so easy to lose a lot of time. It's just one death and you've lost 30 seconds or something. So I don't know, it's a strange level, I think.
But right here's a skip that is kind of tricky. You essentially just hit this weird little sort of slope. I died. That's lovely. So this means that we no longer have any rocket fuel, and we'll have to collect some, but no big deal.
Yeah, the skip we did before was basically, normally you're supposed to fly up there, but we did it in order to preserve the rocket fuel. But
you can,
now we'll have to collect those.
You can recollect it there, but it's a slightly longer path than if things had just went well.
Yeah. You're also going to be seeing Kefka doing a lot of slope jumps in this one, which I mentioned in the beginning. So you'll often see him like doing these strange, he'll jump into a slope in order to slide down a little bit, in order to recharge his slope jump, so he can jump off the slope in the next jump. So it might look a bit strange. You'll see him kind of jumping into a wall, slide down, and then continue to do the real jump. But that's just to make sure he has a charged slope jump.
There is a way you can slope jump past that sort of lava pool I just went past as well, but I've personally never went for it. Only saves a few seconds, and I've never really felt like taking the risk, honestly. This is one of those levels where there are a lot of different tricks you can do, which have varying levels of risk. And I've noticed pretty much every runner kind of does a different combination of the skips in this stage, depending on what they're comfortable with.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of a nice thing about this game. It really does have, like, variety. You don't, not everyone has to take the same route, and you can really kind of tune it to your needs.
I'm sure as it becomes more optimized, there'll be a lot less variance in the route with the top level of play, but the game is still at a current stage of development where there's not really a... I mean, the route's kind of consistent at this point, but there's still just a lot of variance, even at the top level of play.
Yeah.
Like this section here, you can skip quite a bit of it, and I honestly just don't even bother, whereas a lot of other runners...
it's very difficult, and you can easily, like, if you die there, you'll get set back like 40 seconds earlier in the level or something, so it's a big time loss.
I might actually go back and get that previous mega fuel since we missed the two, and I'm going to. It'll cost us a little time, but I'm a little worried we won't have enough fuel.
Yeah.
And since we got that checkpoint, I'm just going to get this fuel and then die on purpose. That extra fuel will hopefully help us make sure we have enough.
Yeah, and yeah, I also really like that part of the game, needing to collect the fuels. It brings in a very fun routing aspect, and yeah, I kind of hope we never find a way to skip those. I think it's a good thing having it in the run.
I agree. And I think even if we were to find a way to skip having to collect any of them, I feel like we would probably keep a run around that doesn't as well, maybe just sort of have separate categories.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Oh man. Okay.
And yeah, these huts. Yeah, that's one thing to talk about.
Oh man, yeah.
So the camera gets messed up when you enter these huts, and you have to be very careful because if the camera kind of goes into the hut, you can lose seconds upon seconds just trying to get out of the hut because the camera just will not cooperate, and you have no idea where you're facing or where the exit is. And
Well, normally I wouldn't even collect those 2 mega fuels there, but we missed a couple in Techno Mummy during the flying section. So I'm just playing it a little bit safe and grabbing a couple extra just to make sure we have enough to finish the game and don't have to re-enter any other levels. And we fail. Cool. So the spinning platform thing that I was on there, they have pretty wonky geometry. I would describe, which a lot of things in this game do, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay. So this section here, you'll see this little like pink creature or robot, I suppose, and you'll guide them into these trees, and it lets them grow. They can be pretty difficult to manipulate into the correct position if you don't know what you're doing. And then this section here, notice how the tree flung me, and we almost went in that lava pit. I'm not really sure what the sort of qualifiers are there, but sometimes it actually will just shoot you straight into the lava pit and you'll just die. It has something to do with your positioning on the tree itself, but I'm not quite sure what the specifics of that are.
Yeah, and the strange thing is, I have no idea what the intended route through that section is, because there's another tree you can also use to get up there. But that tree is also very precise. You have to stand on the exact right spot to get up, so...
Good lord.
Honestly, not sure how to even do that part.
Well, we're definitely losing some time here. These robot enemies shoot these sort of sleeping darts at you, or like, I guess almost like tranquilizers.
Like stun darts type of thing, yeah.
And one of them unfortunately hit us as I was about to line up and jump up on top of the platform, which is unfortunate, but part of it. Alright.
But yeah, here, upcoming is like one of the slope jump things I'm talking about. We're gonna jump across this pit here. First jump into the slope to charge a slope jump, and then we can jump on the side of the wall here or the slope to get across. Yeah,
it's a pretty fancy looking footwork, honestly. And that's one of the things that attracted me to this game when I first started looking into it as a speedrun, is I noticed that a lot of those jumps were, not only did they look intricate and fancy, but you could just tell that, I don't know, there was just a lot of cool movement mechanics in this game.
Yeah. Now, are you going for bird?
Absolutely not.
Bird cutscene skip?
Absolutely not. I still haven't went for this skip in a run yet.
No, there's a skip here. There's purple bird. You can, when it flies across the lava, you can jump on it and get a jump off the bird to get across this lava pit, which skips this cutscene, basically.
Yeah, and I don't go for it because if you miss it, it takes you back to the previous checkpoint and you lose, well, 30 plus seconds for sure. It's definitely going to be one of those things later on as the game becomes more optimized where it'll cause quite a few resets, I imagine.
Yeah, I don't think it's that difficult compared to a lot of others. If you have a setup, it can become pretty consistent. So, but yeah, it's definitely a risky strat, but it's another one of these cool-looking strats to do. So yeah, okay, now we're finishing up this level, and that means we finished these 3 levels that you can basically choose the order, right? Yeah.
It's worth mentioning that technically it's 4 levels. The only barrier to going to the 4th level in that, though, is having 100 mega fuels.
Yeah, so now that we have 100 mega fuels, we can go into the essentially last level of the game.
Which is
before
Earth.
The boss level. Yeah, that's Earth. So yeah, basically the whole mega fuel collecting thing was just to get into Earth. And Yeah, so you're always going to do Earth last after collecting the mega fuels, basically. Now, it's a very short level, because it has a pretty big skip.
It's honestly a very... I don't even know if I would class it as a difficult skip, as much as just a very strange skip that isn't fully understood.
Yes, so another runner of this game, Nathan, is bored. Me and Nathan kind of ran the game together a year ago. We were kind of figuring out a lot of this stuff together. And I remember we got on a call once trying to figure out this skip. And, well, first thing, this is really cool. You have to kind of jump off this enemy to get out of bounds. So now we're basically in a part of the level you're not supposed to be in. We're outside of the level. And then there are these, you can see these like force barriers all over the place. And these kill you. If you try to run through them, you will die. But basically what we figured out is that if you start running at these barriers from the correct spot, there's like a tiny window in Starshot's running animation when he starts running, where there's like one frame where he won't be touching the barrier and you will get through, basically. But you have to start running from the correct spot. And yeah, he's lining it up here, and
we got it.
Yeah, so you can see he kind of just like jumped through the barrier in one frame while pausing. And pausing does seem to make it more consistent. We don't know why, but pausing does seem to help.
So we came to Earth actually to collect the last Earthling, and it's funny because we end up finding the Earthling in their basement, writing some kind of novel, and yeah. And this is something I didn't know about until recently, but I thought that you actually had to go and talk to the Earthling, but you can just shoot them and it'll automatically trigger the cutscene. I didn't know that until very recently, but saves a little bit of time.
Yeah, I've actually lost a lot of time. I don't think I went for that because I've just lost time on trying to shoot him, and the shot doesn't go where I want, and I spent a lot of time trying to shoot him.
Pretty good Earth, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just a perfect Earth, essentially. No hiccups. Now we're gonna go through the last level of the game, basically like the boss level before the final boss.
It has a very strange gimmick to it. I'm gonna go ahead and give sort of a warning that the noises can be a bit irritating in this level. I'll let you sort of explain.
Yeah, so this is kind of an escort mission, I guess, or like, so there's gonna be this robot bird thing, I don't know what to call it. First we're gonna run and get some ammo, and then we're gonna go and pick up this robot, and then we kind of have to herd the robot through the level, through a bunch of obstacles.
It's also worth mentioning that essentially we're on the side of kind of a... I mean, you could call it a battleship, but it's really the rival Circus that was mentioned earlier, and they have their own sort of spaceship. And if you jump in this stage, you die. So we won't be doing any jumping. This level's definitely slow going. This is one of those levels that honestly could really use a skip. For those of you who like to hunt for skips, I'm going to go ahead and sort of sell this, but if you can look over this wall here to my right, that's actually the end of the level. So if we could find a simple way to go out of bounds or something, we could potentially skip most of this level, which would be absolutely wonderful, because this level is not fun, it's long, it's tedious, there's no music, which sucks.
Difficult noises, yeah. But yeah, basically this robot thing is kind of running from you, and you have to kind of stand in the right spot so it runs in the right direction.
And then he'll turn off the fires for us, by the way, as well.
Yeah.
Sort of the purpose of the robot.
That's why we need him. He turns off these flamethrower things. And as you can see, it's pretty janky. He'll run into walls, and getting him to go to the right place can be very annoying. If an enemy shoots the robot, though, then the robot will start running towards you, which can be used in some sections.
Camera.
If you get the enemy to shoot the robot, and then you can run to the end, and the robot will follow you. But that's very tricky and inconsistent. And I don't
There we are.
think you're gonna use that.
No, definitely not.
Another thing that you can do here, which is also very kind of risky and aggressive, is you can push the robot. If you kind of run into him, you can push him a little bit so he goes faster. But that runs the risk of kind of pushing him to the side, and then you'll get a strange angle, and he will start running to the side. So you might also lose a lot of time with that. I think as the game gets more optimized, we're going to see more of that kind of robot pushing towards the end.
So it's worth noting, I don't know if you knew this, Osu, but these walls with the kind of slant on them, you can actually, if you push the robot into a corner well enough, you can actually make the robot skip over the walls.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's something I discovered a couple weeks ago. I haven't found any uses for it yet. I even managed to get the robot into the final area, trying to get it to trigger the cutscene towards the end of the stage where the robot dies, if you know the one I'm referring to.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it didn't pan out, unfortunately. But that doesn't
that
doesn't mean that it's not useful later, right?
Yeah, it sounds like it has a lot of potential. But yeah, basically we're just hurting the robot, getting it to switch off these fires. You can see this part is kind of tedious, and it's not an auto-scroller, but it almost feels like an auto-scroller type of thing. You're limited by the speed of the robot if you're not pushing it. And yeah, here the robot does die, and you have a little section where you can go without the robot.
I've never really figured out this part here. The indicator for walking through that is not very clear, honestly.
Yeah. And yeah, you're almost kind of touching the fire when you go through, so knowing when to go through is kind of tricky. And yeah, as for glitch hunting in this level, it really limits you that you can't jump. Because, yeah, the idea is that if you jump, gravity will take over and you'll just float endlessly through space. Or, a lack of gravity will take over. But, yeah, so not being able to jump really feels limiting to just movement and everything. And it's just not a very nice part of the run, I would say.
It's very definite. As far as a level goes, it's definitely a big damper on the speedrun, I would argue. In fact, it's such a large damper. When I was learning to speedrun the game, I didn't even learn this level. I played through it once casually, learned the rest of the game as far as strats goes, and then I just kind of have naturally gotten somewhat better at this level over time, just from playing it. I've never really went through and practiced any particular sections of it, just due to the tedium of it.
Yeah, and as you can see, it's pretty long as well. It's not a short level, and yeah.
But we're coming up towards the end of it as well.
It could really use a skip. Oh yeah, if there are any glitch hunters out there, please look at this one.
A runner in chat has asked what happens if you fly in this level. You cannot fly, because in order to fly, you have to jump, and if you jump, you die. And
also there just aren't any flying fuel.
It is worth mentioning, by the way, for those of you who would be interested in learn this as a speed game, that the game has a debug mode that really makes practice quite convenient, where you can cap out your fuel and everything. Okay. We're getting stuck in kind of a feedback loop here. I don't know if you've noticed. This is
coming up.
Very unfortunate. We're going to be going into the final boss with one bullet as well, which is not a situation you want to see, but oh well.
Yeah, you need a lot of ammo. The blue stuff is the ammo, and we need a lot of ammo for the boss. But yeah, this is the final boss. It has 3 phases.
And actually, this is the only boss in the game, now that I think about it.
Oh, yeah, that's true, actually, yeah.
That's weird.
So we still haven't really started any of the phases yet. We're just collecting stuff now. But once we go on to the highest platform there, then the real battle starts. And yeah, we need a lot of ammo. We're going to be shooting a bunch. And we also need some of this flying stuff. Not as much, but...
I'm somewhat tempted to die on purpose to restore my
because of
health, but I'm not going to. Camera.
So first part is we have to kind of use the sort of holding B to guide the shots. We have to shoot him behind his ship there. So we have to guide our shots so they hit the back of the boss, which can be tricky because he's moving around and he's firing these huge eyeballs at you, and yeah, it's a tricky part, definitely.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I think I'm gonna die, and then I did die. I'm okay with it because it's gonna get us some more ammo, and it does just start us right back during the phase as well. I didn't know that. I've never died during that part of the fight.
Yeah, I thought it would spawn you back in the beginning of the level.
Or not, beginning of the room, area. Rather. Yeah, that's what I thought would happen. But hey, learning something new every day.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a really ideal phase. Yeah, that was great. So second phase is kind of janky, honestly. It's not the worst.
Just go straight up janky. Yeah. It's honestly, I don't even know what they were thinking as the intended way to do that part, you know. But there's this wire in the middle there which he's flying around, and we have to shoot it so he hits that and gets electrified like that. And that was very good, because sometimes when you hit him, he just swerves off to the right and doesn't hit it, or swerves off to the left. And it really feels so... like, the slightest angle change will make him swerve in a completely different direction. So this is just very janky. Here he's going to stop to the side, so we have to guide our shots so they hit him from the side and shoot him into the middle electric thing. So you can see he's always going to stop on the platform that's on the side compared to where you are.
I'm surprised that worked. Wow.
Yeah, that was good. And then we're off to the last phase, which he's going to make a bunch of like Starshot clones, and we just have to shoot each of them 5 times to kill them, and then that's going to be the end of the run. So this part can, if you play it risky, it can get kind of dicey, because like we mentioned before, you can kind of get stun locked by the enemies, and if they shoot you once and another one shoots you and then they hit you, and it can get, you can basically just get stuck and they'll kill you super quickly. So, but you can go around that by just doing it pretty safe, by just going onto the higher platform, shooting a few times, and going quickly off like he's doing right now. Just.
And the good news is that the bullets down here respawn every time you fall. So coming back down here has the added benefit of just collecting a couple bullets as well, so that you don't run out of ammo. So
as long as you don't spend too much time up there, oh, this is risky. Yeah, you saw there, they shot him like 4 or 3 times very fast there, and he lost a lot of health very quickly. So definitely can really kill you really quickly. Okay, 2 to go.
1 to go now.
And so it's going to be time coming up soon. As soon as Starshot starts dancing after he kills the last one, that's going to be time. Oh yeah, there was another one. Okay.
All right.
So, yeah. So when we start dancing, that's going to be the end of the run. Now, the end of this run is, or the end cutscene is kind of strange.
Yeah, it's very strange. The game ends on, I guess, what you could call a cliffhanger, but not really. For a long time, I always thought that perhaps there was a second ending, like a good ending, but no, it just weirdly ends this way. Basically,
Yeah,
to explain some more lore, the evil Circus, their whole gimmick is that they don't have any actual live attractions. They specifically go across the universe killing various other attractions, and then they make like a digital virtual version of said things, so that other places can't use them as to like profit or whatever. So what's happened here is the evil circus leader has actually captured us, and now we are part of their circus, and that's strangely how the game ends. Which
yeah, you're just in jail,
yeah,
and that's the end. It's so strange.
yeah, very very bizarre game.
But there is the question mark there, the end question mark, which they probably want to make a sequel or something.
Which, you know, it's been about 20 years, so I doubt we're going to see that anytime soon.
Yeah, I guess this game probably didn't fare as well as they hoped. Let's say that.
So,
But yeah.
I'd like to thank Obscurathon for having us. This is my fourth and final run for the marathon. This is also the first time this game has ever appeared in a marathon, so that's pretty cool. Again, I recommend people who like platformers, and especially PlayStation-style platformers, weirdly, because this game certainly has a PlayStation kind of vibe to it, in my opinion. Definitely check this game out. There's a lot of potential for new skips and movement optimizations and stuff to be found. Very welcoming community. And again, just thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kefka. And also just a big GG's for you, and I guess that's plural because yeah, a lot of games you've been running, and just good work.
Yeah, I've actually spent the better chunk. For those of you who don't know, my main speed game is a game called Chameleon Twist, and after I sort of finally got the run that I wanted for that, I've spent the first part of this year learning a bunch of new games, and a lot of those are ones that you've seen during this marathon. So it's always fun to find these sort of obscure games and dig through them, because I find that when you have a game that has a small community, pretty much every new runner that pops up is going to find some kind of strategy or trick or optimization that hasn't been found yet, just due to the limited amount of eyes on the game. But again, thanks everybody. I'm not sure what's next on the schedule. I always wondered what that little robot guy there is. Like, what is that coming in and out of his nose? That's so strange.
Did you play the game casually before running it?
Yes. I didn't really talk to all the different characters, though, but I kind of saw the main story, casually speaking.
Yeah. Okay. So, for example, the second level that we skip, I never played that. I've never even tried that level.
Oh yeah, that's what's next.
So,
there's a 8-hour setup block, some downtime before the marathon finishes out. So I guess we'll see y'all later. This was the
all right.
last run before a bit of a break in the marathon. Certainly a strange game to close out a section of the marathon with, but oh, okay. DBK says they may be going live, so that'll be cool. Oh, I just saw in the chat. Next up is Ninku by DBK. Last minute sort of thing. Most excellent. That should be a lot of fun. Looks like he's going to be trying to grind for the world record.